There are moments when the world seems to ask too much of you, when your strength feels more like a heavy coat you wear for others than a comfort to yourself. I see you there, in that quiet space between who they think you are and who you truly feel yourself to be. Some days, loving yourself feels like trying to embrace a shadow. You reach out, but your arms find only air. How many times have you told yourself you're strong, capable, enough, while a whisper inside wonders if you truly believe it? I've been there too, my dear. That place where self-love is just a beautiful theory we teach others, while we ourselves stand outside its warm circle, looking in. Have you ever stood before the mirror and wondered who was really looking back? Not the face you present to the world, efficient, capable, put together, but the eyes that hold questions too deep for casual conversation. I remember mornings when I would pause before my reflection, lipstick in hand, and feel a stranger staring back. A woman dressed in strength but hungry for tenderness. We become so skilled at carrying worlds on our shoulders that we forget the weight was never meant to be borne alone. There's a particular ache that comes with being the strong one, the reliable one, the one who holds space for everyone else's breaking. We wear our capability like armor, don't we? Polishing it daily with "I'm fine" and "don't worry about me," until it gleams so brightly others can no longer see through to the tender heart beneath. But darling, the mirror knows. It sees the moment your smile softens when no one is watching. It witnesses the quiet exhale when you finally close the door at night and let your shoulders drop their perfect posture. The mirror holds no judgment for the questions you dare not speak aloud. Who would love me if I were not always strong? Who would stay if I admitted I too need holding? These are not questions of weakness, though we've been taught to fear them as such. They are the soul's way of knocking gently on the door of your own heart, asking to be let in after standing outside for far too long. Perhaps self-love begins not with declarations of strength, but with the courage to acknowledge our hunger for tenderness, to whisper, even if only to ourselves, "I have carried much, I am tired." And that changes nothing about my worth. The mirror's question waits patiently each morning. Not "are you enough?" but "can you see how enough you've always been?" Even on days when your arms feel empty, especially on days when your arms feel empty. The journey begins here, not with certainty, but with the most honest question you can ask yourself. What would it mean to hold my own heart with the same care I've held so many others? There's something about the words we speak to ourselves in private that never quite reaches our own ears. Have you noticed? The tender encouragements we offer friends flow like honey, while the words we whisper inward turn to stone before they land. You are strong, you tell yourself, but the echo comes back hollow, as if strength were merely the absence of breaking rather than the courage to feel it all and remain. We've misunderstood what it means to be strong, haven't we? Confused it with being untouchable, unneeding, unmoved. I remember years when my strength was nothing but a wall between myself and my own tenderness. How exhausting it was maintaining that distance from my own heart. Always the giver, never the receiver. Always the shelter, never the one seeking refuge. Our strength becomes a prison when it knows no rest, no softness, no surrender. The world taught us early, didn't it? That pause is weakness. That need is failure. That tears are for private rooms and muffled pillows. And so we learn to swallow oceans without complaint, to straighten crowns without mirrors, to bandage wounds without witness. But listen carefully now. Can you hear it? Beneath the noise of your efficient hands and capable mind, there's a voice growing hoarse from calling your name. It's been trying to reach you. That voice belongs to you too. The you that exists beneath obligation. The you that remains when all the doing is done. What would happen if, just once, you answered that voice instead of silencing it? If you turn toward your own echo with the same attention you give to everyone else's needs, perhaps the strongest thing you'll ever do is admit that you've been strong enough for too long. That beneath the cape of capability lives a woman with ordinary hungers for rest, for reception, for the quiet miracle of being seen exactly as you are. Your strength is magnificent, yes, but it was never meant to be the whole of you. Just as a cathedral needs both stone and light, you were made for both fortitude and tenderness, both giving and receiving, both holding and being held. The echoes of your strength go unheard because you've been listening for the wrong sound. It's not the clang of armor or the certainty of never falling. True strength sounds more like honesty, like the quiet admission, "Today I need," like the tremble in your voice when you finally speak a truth long buried. Your strength isn't diminished by your need, it's completed by it. The circle closes. The woman who can both stand tall and kneel in surrender knows a wholeness that the merely strong never will. Can you hear it now? The echo shifting, your strength calling back not with emptiness, but with the fullness of everything you are. There is a particular heaviness to arms that have held everything except themselves. Have you felt it? That strange ache after you've embraced children, partners, friends, parents, given comfort to all who needed it, only to find your own arms strangely weighted with emptiness when they return to your sides. I know that heaviness. The paradox of arms strong enough to carry others, yet somehow too weary to gather yourself close. We become experts at reaching outward, offering solace, solutions, support, while the distance to our own hearts grows longer with each passing year. Sometimes I wonder when we first learned to fear our own embrace. Was it the time we reached for comfort and found none? Or when our tears were met with "be strong" instead of shelter? Perhaps it was more gradual, a slow forgetting of our worthiness to receive the very tenderness we so freely give. The truth hides in plain sight. We fear the emptiness of our own embrace because we've never truly allowed ourselves to feel it, to sit with arms wrapped around our own shoulders, acknowledging the hunger beneath our capability, the loneliness behind our independence, the yearning beneath our sufficiency. I've watched women flinch at the suggestion of self-compassion, as if it were a luxury too indulgent to consider, as if turning the stream of kindness inward might somehow deplete what we have to offer others. But love doesn't work that way, does it? It multiplies with use. It deepens with practice. What might change if you approached your own empty arms, not as proof of failure, but as an invitation to a homecoming long deferred? If you recognize that emptiness not as something to fear, but as space being cleared for something true to finally take root, there's wisdom in that emptiness. Wisdom in finally admitting, these arms that have been a haven for so many deserve to know what it means to be a haven for me too. The weight you feel isn't weakness, it's awareness awakening. The recognition that hands capable of holding worlds must occasionally be held. That the woman who soothes everyone's storms must sometimes be gathered in from her own weather. Try it now. Let your arms encircle your own shoulders. Feel the hesitation, the strangeness, the unfamiliarity of it, and stay. Breathe into the awkward holiness of this moment. This is not self-indulgence, this is sustainability. This is not selfishness, this is survival. The weight of empty arms begins to change when we honor both their strength and their hunger, when we recognize that they were designed for a circle of giving and receiving. When we trust that embracing ourselves teaches others not selfishness, but wholeness. Your arms know how to hold. Now let them remember what it means to receive. How quietly it happens, this forgetting of ourselves, like gardens left untended, not in a single season of neglect, but in the accumulation of days when everyone else's bloom seemed more worthy of our attention. I've walked with women who can recall the favorite colors of everyone they love, yet pause when asked about their own. Who remember birthdays, anniversaries, preferences, and dreams of others, while their own wishes collect dust in corners of hearts grown accustomed to being last in line. This self-forgetting has been called many virtuous names, hasn't it? Selflessness, generosity, good mothering, proper womanhood. We've been taught to wear our erasure like a badge of honor, as if the measure of our worth were how completely we could disappear while still functioning for others. But there is nothing virtuous about forgetting the woman you were born to be. Nothing noble about gardens gone to seed while you tend everyone else's roses. I remember the afternoon I realized I could no longer name what brought me joy apart from making others happy. The moment landed like a stone in still water, not with drama, but with ripples of recognition that continued to spread outward. How long had I been gone from myself? How completely had I disappeared into roles and responsibilities, into others' needs and expectations? Sometimes the most radical act is simply to remember, to call yourself back from the far countries of endless giving, to whisper your own name like a summons, to catalog with deliberate care the contours of your own heart, what it loves, what it needs, what makes it sing. There is no selfishness in this remembering. The world doesn't need more depleted women performing endless acts of sacrifice. It needs women who have remembered themselves completely enough to give from wholeness rather than habit, from choice rather than obligation. The garden of yourself is still there beneath the weeds of self-forgetting. Your particular magic lies dormant but not dead, waiting for the tender recognition of your own attention. The flowers unique to your soul's design still remember how to grow, even after seasons of neglect. What would it mean to turn toward this forgotten garden with curiosity instead of criticism? To approach the task of remembering yourself not as selfish indulgence but as sacred reclamation? To recognize that in cultivating your own soil, you create more beauty for the whole world, not less? Begin simply. Notice what draws your eye, what lightens your step, what makes time disappear. These are breadcrumbs on the path back to yourself. Follow them with the same devotion you've given to everyone else's journey. The woman you've forgotten deserves your remembering, and the world deserves the gift of your wholeness, not merely the leftovers of your attention. Revolutions don't always announce themselves with trumpets and declarations. The most profound ones often begin in whispers, in small moments of refusal, in quiet decisions to turn toward yourself with new eyes. Your revolution begins the first time you pause before automatically saying yes, in the breath you take before responding to yet another request, in the moment you consider, truly consider, what you actually want rather than what is expected. I've witnessed women start these quiet revolutions with acts so small they seemed insignificant, choosing to sit in silence for 10 minutes before beginning the day's demands. Taking the scenic route home instead of the efficient one, buying flowers for no occasion except the celebration of being alive. These aren't indulgences, they are declarations of personhood, small but mighty, assertions that your existence matters beyond what you provide. The world may not notice your revolution at first. Revolutions of self-reclamation rarely make headlines, but you'll feel the shift, the subtle redistribution of weight as you begin to make room for yourself in the story of your own life. There will be resistance, of course, from others who have grown accustomed to your endless availability, from systems designed to extract rather than sustain, but most fiercely from the voices within that have internalized these expectations as virtue. These voices will whisper that self-care is selfish, that boundaries are unkind, that prioritizing yourself means loving others less. They've been with you so long you may mistake them for wisdom. But wisdom never demands depletion. Wisdom never glorifies erasure. Wisdom understands that wells must be filled to provide water. Your revolution might look like learning to receive compliments without deflection, like allowing someone else to clear the dishes while you remain seated, like admitting when you're tired instead of pushing through, like acknowledging your own expertise without minimizing it, like asking for help before exhaustion forces your hand. What makes this revolution radical is not its scale, but its direction, the turning inward that must precede authentic outward giving. The recognition that love is circular, not linear, that to pour from an empty vessel is not heroic, but ultimately unsustainable. I've watched women transform through this quiet revolution, not into different people, but into more authentic versions of themselves. The giving doesn't stop, it simply changes quality. Becomes infused with choice rather than compulsion, with joy rather than obligation, with presence rather than performance. Your revolution has already begun in the simple recognition that something within needs to change, that the division between caring for others and caring for yourself is a false one, that the most generous thing you might ever do is to become fully yourself without apology. This is not the work of a day, but of a lifetime. Each small choice to turn toward yourself with kindness is another step in the revolution. Each moment of hearing your own needs without judgment adds to its momentum. Listen closely. The revolution is already whispering your name. There was a time when your name belonged to you completely, before it became attached to titles and roles, before it became synonymous with what you could provide. Do you remember when your name was simply the sound that called you home to yourself? I've often wondered about the moment when a woman's name begins to mean something different to others than it does to herself. When mother or wife or caregiver or strong one begins to overshadow the simple truth of her existence. When her identity becomes so wrapped in relation to others that the core self grows faint, like a song playing too far away to distinguish the melody. What would it mean to reclaim your name, not just the syllables others call you by, but the essence of who you are beneath all you've become for the sake of love and survival? Begin with breath, this simple, involuntary act that has been yours since before you knew yourself. Inhale as if drawing your name back into your body. Exhale as if clearing space for its resonance. Your breath belongs to no one, but you has never needed permission or justification or explanation. I remember standing alone by the ocean once, speaking my own name into the wind, testing its weight and texture on my tongue as if tasting it for the first time. How strange it felt, how intimate and almost transgressive to claim those syllables not as an identity worn for others, but as a dwelling place for my soul. There is power in this reclamation, in recognizing that beneath the layers of expectation and adaptation, there lives a woman who exists for her own sake, whose worth is not measured in productivity or sacrifice or availability to others, whose name means herself before it means anything else. Try it now. Whisper your name as if introducing yourself to yourself. Listen for the woman who answers from within, not the one shaped by others' needs, but the one who has been waiting to be acknowledged on her own terms. This is not about abandoning your connections or responsibilities. It's about remembering that the woman who shows up for everyone else deserves to be known and honored for more than her capacity to give. That your value exists independent of utility. That your name contains multitudes beyond what others have come to expect. The practice is simple but profound, to breathe into your own name daily. To recognize yourself as not just the hub of a wheel with spokes extending outward to everyone who needs you, but as a complete circle unto yourself. To understand that honoring this completeness makes you more available to love, not less, because authentic giving can only flow from a self that is known and cherished. Your name is more than a label or a role or a function. It is a dwelling place, a sanctuary, a kingdom with its own sovereign laws of worthiness and belonging. Breathe into this kingdom daily. Recognize its borders and its treasures. Allow your name to mean, first and foremost, the miracle of your own existence. You have always been more than what others needed you to be. Breathe into this truth. Breathe into your name. There is a particular kind of courage rarely celebrated in stories of heroism, the courage to receive. To stand with open hands rather than outstretched ones. To allow yourself to be seen in need rather than in capability. to accept the gift of being tended to after a lifetime of tending others. For many women, this is the final frontier of bravery, more terrifying than speaking truth to power or standing firm in conviction. The vulnerability of receiving cuts straight to our deepest fears. Am I worthy of care I haven't earned through giving? Will I still be loved if I am not constantly useful? Is there room in this world for my need alongside my strength? I know this fear intimately. The way the throat tightens when someone offers help. The instinct to deflect kindness with "I'm fine" or "don't worry about me." The discomfort that rises like a tide when attention turns toward our hunger rather than our hospitality. We've been taught that receiving is passive, perhaps even weak, a failure of self-sufficiency. But true receiving is neither passive nor weak. It requires tremendous courage to lower the shields of self-protection, to acknowledge need, to trust that your vulnerability will be held with care rather than exploited or dismissed. Receiving is its own kind of strength, the strength to trust that your worth isn't tied to what you provide, the strength to believe that love flows toward you not because of what you do, but because of who you are. The strength to recognize that allowing others to give creates connection, not burden. I remember learning this lesson late in life, how my refusal to receive was actually denying others the joy of giving, how my constant "I can handle it" was creating distance rather than proving strength, how behind my refusal of help often lurked not independence, but fear that if I showed need, the world would discover I wasn't as strong as I pretended to be. But what if strength includes both giving and receiving? What if the complete circle of human connection requires us to stand on both sides of the exchange? What if our capacity to receive actually deepens our ability to give authentically? Begin small if you must. Accept the compliment without deflection. Receive the meal someone prepares without jumping up to help. Allow the gift without immediate thoughts of reciprocation. Speak your need without apology or minimization. Notice the discomfort, the urge to quickly restore the balance by giving something in return, the vulnerability that threatens to close your throat or bring unexpected tears. This discomfort isn't a warning to retreat, it's the growing edge of a new kind of courage taking root. The courage to receive transforms not just our relationship with others, but with ourselves. It declares that we are worthy of care simply because we exist, not because we've earned it through service or sacrifice. It acknowledges that the woman who has given so much deserves to be on the receiving end of life's generosity. Perhaps the most revolutionary act of self-love is this: to stand with open hands, breathing through the vulnerability, and whisper, "Yes, I receive this. Yes, I am worthy of this. Yes, there is room in this world for both my giving and my need. This is not entitlement, this is completion." This is the courage that allows the circle of love to flow unobstructed both toward you and from you. Between one heartbeat and the next exists a space so small, so infinitesimal, that most of us live entire lifetimes without noticing it. Yet in that space, that pause between the drum of life continuing, whispers the truth you've been seeking. It speaks not in the language of should or must or ought, not in the voice of achievement or obligation, but in the ancient tongue of belonging, of enoughness, of being rather than doing. I've come to believe that self-love lives not in grand declarations or momentous shifts, but in these whispered truths between heartbeats. In the quiet recognition that arrives when the noise of proving and pleasing momentarily subsides. Listen now. Can you hear it? Between the rhythm of your constant becoming, between the systole and diastole of your ceaseless effort, there is a stillness that holds everything you've been searching for. Women are rarely taught to listen for these whispers. Instead, we learn early to attune to everyone else's needs, to track subtle shifts in rooms we enter, to anticipate requirements before they're spoken. Our attention becomes a compass, perpetually pointed outward, while the true north within goes unheeded. The whispers will not shout to compete with the clamor of your responsibilities. They will not demand attention like children tugging at your sleeve or emails flooding your inbox. They speak with the quiet confidence of truth that needs no defense, no elaboration, no proof. What might you hear if you paused long enough to listen? Perhaps the whisper that your worth was never in question, that the approval you seek has always lived within your own chest, that the love you've been offering to everyone else has been waiting patiently to be turned toward yourself. I remember the first time I truly heard these whispers sitting alone at my kitchen table, hands wrapped around cooling tea, nothing remarkable about the moment except the quality of my attention. The revelation wasn't thunderous but gentle. I had been searching everywhere for what had lived within me all along. Between heartbeats, the whispers remind us, the doing will never complete what only being can fulfill. The external markers of success will never satisfy what only internal recognition can nourish. The love from others, however abundant, can never replace the love that must flow from your own heart back to itself. This is not about adding another task to your list. Listen to inner whispers, wedged between errands and obligations. It's about a quality of presence that weaves through everything. A willingness to pause in the spaces between action, a gentle turning of attention inward, even as life continues to call you outward. The whispers speak most clearly in moments of ordinary grace, while washing dishes with mindful hands, during the deep exhale after a difficult conversation, in the quiet before sleep claims consciousness. They require not grand retreats or elaborate rituals, but simply your willingness to listen in the midst of living. What they offer is not advice, but remembrance, not direction, but recognition, not transformation, but homecoming. They remind you of what you have always known beneath the layers of forgetting, that you have never been separate from the love you seek, that worthiness is your birthright, that belonging begins within. Between heartbeats, the truth waits patiently for your attention. Listen, there is a dance happening within you, ancient, unfolding, patient. It doesn't demand perfection or completion. It asks only for your presence and your permission to continue its quiet choreography of becoming. This dance has been yours since before you knew yourself, before roles and responsibilities, before heartbreaks and triumphs, before you learned to measure your worth through external eyes. The steps may have been forgotten, the rhythm obscured by the louder demands of living, but the music has never stopped playing. I've watched women rediscover this dance in the second half of life, when children have grown, when careers have peaked or transformed, when the external definitions of success and failure begin to matter less than the internal sense of authenticity. How beautiful it is to witness a woman remembering her own music, her own movement, her own meaning. The dance of becoming isn't linear. It doesn't progress steadily from less to more, from flawed to perfected. It spirals and circles back, revisiting old wounds with new wisdom, old dreams with new understanding. It honors both the constants of who you've always been and the evolution of who you are becoming. What would change if you approached your relationship with yourself not as a problem to be solved, but as a dance to be lived? If you recognize that self-love isn't a destination, but a rhythm, a way of moving through days with both intention and surrender? I remember learning that the most profound dances leave room for both structure and improvisation, for both discipline and abandon. The same is true for the art of becoming yourself. There are practices that anchor meditation, reflection, boundaries that honor your needs. And there are moments of pure, unscripted joy, laughter that rises from the belly, creativity that flows without judgment, connection that transcends the ordinary. Both are necessary, both are sacred. The dance asks that you hold your own contradictions with grace, the strength and the vulnerability, the wisdom and the wonder, the certainty and the doubt. The woman you've been and the woman you're becoming, None must be sacrificed for the other. The fullness of your humanity encompasses all. Notice where the dance feels constricted, where old narratives or others' expectations have created rigidity in your movement, where you've been performing steps that were never yours to begin with. The body knows, listen to its wisdom. Where do you feel expansion, lightness, rightness? Where does energy flow rather than deplete? These sensations are breadcrumbs leading you back to your authentic rhythm. This is the subtle shift from self-improvement to self-reclamation, from fixing what's broken to remembering what's whole, from becoming someone new to unveiling someone ancient and true who has been waiting beneath the layers all along. The dance doesn't demand dramatic gestures or public declarations. It happens in private moments of choosing alignment over approval, in small decisions to honor your own tempo rather than matching everyone else's pace, in gentle corrections when you find yourself moving to music that isn't yours. There is no perfect performance, no final mastery, only the daily practice of showing up for the next step, the next measure, the next movement of your becoming, the willingness to remain both student and choreographer of your own life. The dance continues. It always has. Turn toward it with curiosity rather than judgment, with patience rather than demand. Your becoming has its own wisdom, its own timing, its own perfect unfolding. There comes a moment, perhaps not dramatic but profound in its quietness, when you realize you have been carrying a key all along, not to someone else's approval, not to some external marker of success, but to the door of your own heart, the threshold you have stood before so many times without daring to enter. Coming home to yourself isn't a single moment, but a continual choosing. A daily recognition that beneath all the layers of doing and giving and becoming lies a sanctuary that has always belonged to you. A place where worth isn't earned but inherent, where love isn't proven but present. I've known women who discovered this homecoming late in life, after children were raised, after marriages ended or transformed, after careers had demanded their fullest measure. How their eyes changed when they spoke of finally turning the key, of stepping across the threshold to meet themselves as if for the first time. Not with judgment for the years of absence, but with gratitude for the return. What does it mean to be home to yourself? It means no longer abandoning your own needs when others call. It means creating space for your own voice in the conversation of your life. It means recognizing hunger for rest, for beauty, for meaning, for joy, not as selfishness, but as sacred information about what your soul requires to thrive. Home is where we can remove the masks and armor we wear for protection in the outer world, where we can acknowledge weariness without fear of appearing weak, where tears don't need explanation and joy doesn't need justification, where we are known in our completeness, not just in our usefulness. You've been building this home all along, even in your forgetting, every moment of honesty about what hurts and what heals, every boundary drawn to protect your spirit's integrity, every no that made space for a truer yes, every time you've honored your own experience, even when others couldn't understand it. These are the foundations of your return. I remember the day I realized that all my searching for home in others' approval had been a beautiful detour from the truth, that the belonging I sought had always lived within me, patient as heartbeats, steady as breath, that the love I had learned to give so abundantly to others was meant to flow in a circle, returning to its source. This homecoming doesn't mean abandoning connections or responsibilities. Rather, it transforms them from obligations into choices, from depletion into exchange. When you are home to yourself, your giving flows from abundance rather than fear, from wholeness rather than whole-filling. The key turns not with grand gestures, but with small moments of choosing presence over performance, of meeting your own gaze in mirrors with kindness instead of criticism, of speaking to yourself with the tenderness you so readily offer others, of allowing yourself to be both masterpiece and work in progress simultaneously. The door has always been waiting for your hand on the latch, The tenderness threshold has always been ready for your step. The sanctuary of your own heart has been preparing for your return through every detour, every stumble, every moment you thought you were lost. You are not too late. You have not wandered too far. The path home is as close as your next breath, your next choice to turn toward yourself with the same compassion you've given to the world. Welcome home, beloved. Welcome home to the arms that have always been strong enough to hold you, even when they seemed empty. Welcome home to the heart that has always known your worth, even when you forgot. Welcome home to yourself. It's not the end. It's just the moment when you allow yourself to rest. And resting, too, is an act of love.